Hello, Megan.
Hey, Devon.
I'm so glad to see you. I can't believe a week has passed.
I know it goes by so fast.
You had a big week too. You were in Toronto this weekend, right?
Yes, took a little trip up to Toronto for the Sports Card Expo. So much fun. Got to really nerd out and just shop for hockey cards for basically 4 days straight. It was
Wow.
so much fun. Like we have the patience to go through the cards and like look for what we're looking for, especially since we generally want like really obscure stuff. It takes a while to like comb through the boxes of everything and yeah, so it was a good time. It was a lot of fun.
What were some of your favorite pieces that you found?
Oh gosh, I was really happy to find a couple Kivlenix cards.
Nice.
Those you can find them, but it was nice to find them in the wild. They don't really ever
Yeah.
get to do that. And then gosh, what else should I go for? Like some really nice Shane Pinto stuff, just all the stuff I've really been obsessing over lately, and a couple Kirill Marchinkos, just fun stuff.
Yeah. You seem to come back with quite the loot. I saw some photos. Very exciting. For our
Yes.
listeners, if you care to check it out, you can look on Instagram under at Hockey Style Podcast. And we have a whole post dedicated to the Toronto Sports Card Expo. I've
Yes.
never been, so I'll have to check it out. It looked like a blast. I was
It is
particularly
very,
excited to see the goalie
yeah.
gear, the game worn pads, blockers, and gloves they had from both Stolars and my favorite, Joseph Wall.
Whoa, you just said favorite. It was pretty fun too because they did actually have some game worn gear. So Toronto was there. Like that was like Toronto's setup. Everything they were
Oh,
there
okay.
doing the things. And also St. Pete's was there too. So a few things. There was a
Oh,
Brennan
cool.
Othman jersey that we were oogling, but just a
Nice.
little much for the weekend. We'd already done a
Yeah.
lot, so we had to let that one go.
So two things. My brother's name's Brennan, hence the Brennan interest. And two, when I say favorite, I mean he's among my like 25
Oh,
top
okay.
favorite
I was just
goalies.
checking because I don't
Oh
know how
my
I feel about that. Yeah.
gosh. No, all of a sudden Alex Lyon becomes an unrestricted free agent. You think I'm just kicking him out the
Uh-huh.
door? No.
Yeah. Okay, just checking. I had
But
to
I
clarify.
do love Wool. He's in my top. That's so fun. Well, you had a far more productive and interesting hockey week than I did. I've just been watching playoffs like a crazy person until all hours of the night slash early morning. If we have any more overtimes, I don't know what I'm going to have to reorganize my morning meeting schedule because
Ah,
I'm running on a lot of coffee right now.
but it's so good. It's playoff hockey. You just gotta do it. We only get it once a year.
I know, I know. And last night I was, the time this is recorded, it was the last Carolina New Jersey game, and I'm pulling for the Canes, so I stayed up the entire game, and I really wanted to flip over and watch Toronto, watch a few others, but I couldn't. I just had to see how this was going to pan out. Oh my gosh, what a game! Markstrom was incredible. That might be the best game I've ever seen out of Markstrom. He was like a warrior. So it was disappointing for him, but I, of course, wanted to see the Canes win, and it was wonderful. So congrats, Megan, on your
Yay.
second team after the Wings being the first
Let's
to
go.
qualify for round two.
Yay. Hoping
And
Freddie can rest up and be back for round two and be available. I love Kachukov, but it's just
yeah,
nice to know that you've got your two starters available for sure, or at least, your one and two available.
yes, I was hoping our Pyotr Kochekov would really shine yesterday. But gosh, I don't think he had but maybe two shots on goal the entire overtime. It
Well,
was
that's
just it was
jeez.
really, I think he had two shots on goal to New Jersey's 20 some. It was
Oh,
wild. They came out to shovel the ice, and they were joking, the commentators, just shovel, the New Jersey end, the Carolina end is pristine. So
oh
it was like a
dear.
very one-sided OT, but the
Oh
game was
dear.
very back and forth. So
Oh gosh.
it was interesting. Yeah, that's why I say Markstrom stood on his head.
Wow.
Yeah. So playoffs for sure have been keeping me busy. But other
Good.
than that, I miss my Red Wings, as you know, hence all the Red Wings nostalgic Instagram posts this week. But I did. Did you get to listen to the Steve Eiserman McClellan presser yesterday?
I just did like some highlights of posts and some things that were touched on.
You
So
you probably got the gist.
probably.
It was an interesting one. So I just this morning had a chance to listen to the whole hour long interview,
Mm.
and I wasn't shocked by anything. I was cautiously optimistic that Eiserman actually said he had a conversation with Alex Lyon's manager, and if they can work something out, he's certainly open to it. He said the plan is never to carry three goaltenders, but shoot, if you look at the last 2 years, our season would have been over if we hadn't had a reliable NHL ready third. So anything can happen.
I think
Um,
reliable is a strong word, but available third.
Available. Well, depending on who the third was, I hear you on that. Yeah, yeah. So nothing is a done deal. No UFAs are gone yet, and he's hopeful that we'll see quite a few of them return. And I'm most excited for us to hear the good news that Patrick Kane is sounding like a very likely, knock on wood, return.
Let's hope. Like from what I saw, I thought it was interesting that he kind of called out the leaders of the team and said that they needed to do better. And I definitely agree with that for sure. Like you're paid a lot of money, you need to show up and have a positive attitude and do the things. But in the back of my mind, thinking and reading that, I'm like, yeah, like, but you kind of need to do better too, my friend, because
Yeah, it takes the whole organization.
yes,
I
for sure.
agree.
Everybody can do better, I think.
Yeah, actually, McClellan addressed that a little bit when obviously Iserman was getting scrutinized about the trade deadline and not making any huge moves at the trade deadline, which he's explained a number of times now that he
Hmm.
couldn't do without giving up one of our top
Of
prospects,
course.
rookies, or draft picks. And why would he do that for
Yep.
somebody who wasn't
Don't
going to
want to do
like?
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and McClellan was the one he really addressed it. He said it didn't matter if we brought in like three new names. If something didn't fundamentally change in the way that we manage the game when things aren't going our way, nothing was going to change. Like the guys on the ice right now have every skill and capability to succeed. We've seen them do it when we've gone on, 6 game, 7 game win streaks. They needed to learn when things aren't going our way, how do they come back and bounce back quicker? Nobody's going to come in and fix that. So I liked that. He's going to hold them accountable. And I think it's going to be a really interesting start to next season when he is running training camp and he's there right from the get go.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely looking forward to that.
And not to get too in the weeds for our listeners who aren't from Detroit, but we did have one personnel change. I don't know if you saw yet, but our goalie coach, Alex Westland, is out. He was from Gale, so I always had a soft spot for him because I think he knew Lyon back in his collegiate years, but, fresh start there. So we'll look maybe with a new lens at goaltending, and that'll help. But really, until we fix defense,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure. Hmm.
we've still got some holes. So that was
Yes.
interesting. Today, we won't have to bore our listeners who aren't from Michigan too much more, just going deep on Red Wings, because we are very excited to talk about Minnesota Wild.
Yeah.
And this is a team that I have always had a soft spot for because ever since Marc-André Fleury went to Minnesota, I have loved watching Flower. Who doesn't? Have you ever met someone who's like, Flower isn't the best? I mean, everyone
I
loves
don't,
him.
yeah. It's like I
Even
don't like puppies. Like,
oh my, what a good analogy that you hit the nail on the nose, like on the head. That's exactly it. And I think there's even some pictures out there of Marc-André Fleury with puppies. So I'm picturing them right now.
couldn't get any better. Yeah.
Yes. So tell our guests, if you will, our listeners, who our next guest is going to be.
Yeah, so today we're going to do a fun little conversation with Callie Marie, who is a very active member of Ladies of the NHL and more specifically Ladies of the Wild. She's a super fan, goes to a ton of games, is just doing all the things. I love that she consistently posts her game day outfit on Facebook so we get to see. And she definitely shares all the wild content, and it's so interesting and fun to see. So I'm very excited to kind of dive deep with her and talk to her about what she saw with Marc-Andre Fleury for basically his retirement tour. So she got to see
Yes.
so much of that. So I'm really excited to hear like details about that we might not have otherwise gotten. Yeah, just anything that you want to talk to her about that you were thinking about?
I'm really excited. While we're totally in the weeds in playoffs right now, there will come a time, a sad time, where we are all on summer break and nobody's team is playing. So Callie Marie is very involved with going to and supporting the Beauty League in Minnesota. And
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with it. So I would love to talk to her more about how that runs, why she enjoys it. And, we had Justin Hall from the Red Wings play last year, and I believe he was part of the championship team.
Oh,
So
nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna pick her brain on that.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, really excited to talk with her. I know that she has done a little bit of deep diving too and done a little bit of fundraising through the Ladies of the Wild. And I think she kind of connected with some interesting people on that. So that'll be some fun stories. And yeah, just really excited to talk with Callie and see what we can find out.
All right, well, let's do it in period two.
Let's go. Let's get wild.
Hi, Callie.
Hello, how are
Hi,
you, Devon?
Callie.
And hey, Megan.
It is
How are
so
you?
fun. It is so fun to see you. We talk all the time on social media, and sitting here and getting to look at you is the second best thing. I wish we were in person, but
Right,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can
hopefully
get
one day.
you to Minnesota. It's not that far. We're both
It's
used to
really not.
cold weather and
You know?
It is on the list. We need to get there.
Yes,
yes, you do.
and beautiful like four seasons though. It's not always cold,
Right,
right? Yeah, it's
exactly. Like I think next week it's supposed to be close to 80, so it's like
Oh,
it's
wow.
crazy to
yeah,
think go
it's just
from
like Michigan. So
Very
we
cool.
in the first period of our show, we gave our listeners an overview of why we're so excited to have you because you do so much in terms of the hockey world and living the hockey life. So we gave them an overview of your Wild fandom, your history with the team and some of the fundraising efforts you did. And I mentioned how excited I am to talk to you about the Beauty League because I know it will be coming up right around the corner. So but before we dig into all of those topics, hard hitting question for you to kick things off. Stacy Nutini, who you know, founder of the Ladies of the NHL, was our special guest for episode 2. And she pointed out that people from Minnesota are the nicest people anywhere. And we agree. And so we started the podcast. You were one of the first people to reach out and support us and congratulate us and give us good feedback. And we have Amy from our group who reached out and same thing. And you're just all so kind. And we said, "You want to come on, Callie, and represent Minnesota Wild?" And you said, without batting an eye, sure. So we appreciate you so much. Why are people from Minnesota so nice?
Well, I think a lot of us, like I grew up on a farm, so it was small town mentality where you kind of get to know everybody. And, I was also active with, 4-H and FFA. So I was kind of used to the thing of reaching out to people, communication, and making that connection with people across the board, no matter where they were from. So I found that very easy when I was started going to wild games, just being able to pick up, a conversation with somebody right next to me, sitting next to me, or even sitting at the bar watching a game, just to hear other people's stories of, the history of the team before
Yeah.
I became a huge fan because my family, we didn't follow hockey. We were
Oh,
basically a Minnesota Twins baseball family through and through, going to Twins games, especially Dairy Day at the Dome, it used to be called, where it would be for, dairy farmers, because my dad had a dairy farm at the time.
okay.
Oh,
So it
cool.
kind of turned into where going to college, at the University of Minnesota, home of the Gophers,
Yeah.
where, it's like I knew there was a big following with the Gopher hockey program, but I could never afford to go to the game. And one of my best friends from college actually is from Michigan. She's from Romeo.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
I know where that
Mhm.
is, just a little bit north of us.
Yes, they have
And
a lovely peach festival.
and she told me about the Red Wings and your guys' thing about Al the octopus.
Oh, yes.
And octopuses flying onto the ice. And I'm like, what the heck is wrong with you guys? Come on now. But I don't think that's how hockey's supposed to go.
Oh, it's a critical part of hockey. Didn't you know?
Well, somebody did bring one into the X. I don't know if it was last year or 2 years ago. Somebody brought one in and threw it out on the ice.
Oh God.
There you
I
go.
don't know
We're
how
always
they
making a
got it into
mess.
the Excel Energy Center because I don't think any of us want to know what they did or how they did
Yeah.
it.
The logistics are uncomfortable. It can't be good.
Do you
No,
know the history, like the story of why the octopus?
I think she told me when we were in college, but that was so long ago. Can't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, for our listeners who maybe, I think we have a fair number of listeners from outside of Michigan, thanks to the lovely ladies of the NHL all over the country and Canada. We back in the day, Detroit being an original six team, when you qualified for the playoffs, it took 8 games, right, to win the cup. So octopus having 8 legs when the Wings were getting close to playoff contention, and then throughout the playoffs, you would see octopus getting thrown on the ice to recognize that we were there. We could make it 8 games, and the cup was ours. So
Totally normal thing to decide to do.
right,
Perfectly normal.
which makes me realize, like, so Minnesota is known across the state, right, for being like a hockey capital,
The state
but
of hockey.
the state of hockey. But Detroit is really called Hockey Town, right? And we're so close to Canada. I don't know if there's really a rivalry, but you could argue both sides as to which state is really the hockey capital. So you get us. You're our people, Kelly.
Like, it would be so much funner if we were in the same division.
I
Oh,
know.
I know.
Well,
Think
we were west for a while there, but
Yeah, it's definitely rough on us when we're in the West. We have the most distance traveled if we're in the West. It's bad.
yeah, for sure. The boys spend a lot of time on the plane, but if we keep getting expansion teams, who knows? We'll have to do something eventually.
Mhm.
right, exactly. So it'd be
So
interesting to see what they decide to do.
you went to University of Minnesota. Is that where then you've learned about hockey and you just sort of fell in love? Like, how'd you get the bug?
I got the bug actually from a friend of mine who and I was like, okay, he played high school hockey. And one day,
Okay.
you want to watch The Wild? I'm like, watch The Wild? He's like, yeah. And I'm here watching it. And it's like, and I watched a little bit of it when they were first starting when I was in college, but I didn't understand a thing whatsoever. So he kind of introduced me to it more. And then that's kind of how my first jersey came about,
Ooh.
was getting my Pierre Marc Bouchard jersey. I was so excited
Oh,
because
cool.
it was on clearance, but I thought I got Derek Bugard's. I was so pumped. I was like, I called him. I said, I got Derek Bugard jersey. He's like, awesome. Where'd you get it? I'm like, oh, they had it at, the Gopher spot at the Mall of America. They were all on clearance. And then I opened up my bag and I'm like, oh, I got Pierre Marc Bouchard, who was also known as Charlie Brown.
Aw.
So I was like,
Really funny story.
and this like, and you couldn't reach it because it was like final sale. I'm like, oh, that thing.
You're like, wow, okay, well, this might maybe make sense. That's cute.
Well,
That's
the
cute.
time that I really, really caught on was a work outing where I was a top performer at my work and they took us to a Wild game.
Oh,
And
nice.
we
Congrats.
got to go to a suite and, and I'm just sitting there taking it all in. And all the managers that were there at work, they're just like, yeah, we're sorry you're in a suite. We're spoiling you. You're probably not going to want to sit anywhere else. And I said, no, I want to sit in the lower bowl. And I made that goal for that next year. I think I went to probably close to 10 home games.
Nice.
Just like, I'm going to go because at work, people would put their season ticket up for sale if like they weren't able to go. So our concierge service had, tickets available. So I'm like, yep, I'll take them. Oh, these are only $75. Okay.
Oh, that's good. Wow.
That's awesome.
Good deals too. And being able to go with friends and then, kind of still being kind of shy because I'm like, I really don't understand the whole hockey lingo. But then it kind of really then took off when I started going to more games. And then you started playing hockey and now my niece plays hockey too. So,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
Yay.
me kind of, this is what offsides means. This is what you need to
Yeah.
do. Or the call or the text and say, what were they thinking? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. And then
We ask ourselves the same thing.
Oh, yes.
What were they thinking?
And then the best part is my niece, like she kept saying, I'll never be a hockey player. I'm not going to be like my brothers. And now she is the biggest hockey fan. And
Uh,
it was last year, it was either last year or 2 years ago, I took her to her second Wild game. The first one, she went with her mom, and I took her to a game. And it was so funny when we got back from the game. She goes, my brother asked her, how was going to the game with your Auntie Callie? She's like, Auntie Callie's loud. She says boo a lot.
That's cute.
All the time. We're like, okay, you don't need to tell them what I do.
Hey, I've said a lot worse at hockey games, so luckily she only picked up on the boo. She's a good role model in her Auntie Callie. That's awesome. So you mentioned your first jersey. That is a hilarious story. I love it. But Megan pointed out you have like a very impressive wild jersey collection. We've noticed in pictures and things, you always have different jerseys on. Any rare or custom ones that you particularly love wearing to games?
The one that I usually wear is my Ryan Hartman one, because Ryan Hartman is one of my favorite Wild players. And just the connection that I have with him, and getting to know them, and that we'll go more into detail with, later. I also have a Mason Shaw one, who he used to play for the Wild, more so Iowa. He tore his fourth ACL, and basically we decided to let him go after this past season, and now he's playing for the Manitoba Moose. But his connection with me is he's a farm kid like me. And
I love it.
so it was kind of whenever him and I have ran into each other, whether it be at the Beauty League or when he was playing for the Wild or Crazy Game of Hockey, we always talked farming. We never talked about hockey. It was always about the cows. It was about.
It's so sweet.
I love that. Oh my gosh.
He even said to me one of the last times that I saw him when he was actually still playing for the Wild, he said to me, well, I'll let you bring a goat in. I'll let you bring a calf in. Don't worry about it. We can sneak it into the Excel Energy Center. I don't think anybody would care. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure some people would care, but.
Oh my gosh. The goats are so cute, though. How could you ever be upset? They're so adorable.
Okay, what I missed the goat thing, and Megan talks about your goats a bit. Like these come up more than you would think in conversation. Tell me about the goats.
Well, like I said before, my dad used to milk dairy cows, and he got injured one winter, and my mom basically said, the cows have to go, and plus they were getting older in age.
Yeah.
He kind of needed to do something to kind of keep him busy. So then he decided, well, you know what, I'm going to get goats. And the person that they've known for years has what's called boar goats. And so my dad just started out with, I can't remember how many we had. And now it's basically, our barn is basically being outgrown by goats right now. And
that's amazing.
So it's coming up with names. The first set of names that my mom came up with were all her aunt's names. So we had like a Matilda, Tilly, we had a Gert, we had, Esther. These just old names.
I love it.
But then my mom's like, we're not naming the boys. So that just turned into uno, dos stuff.
I thought you were going to say they all had like hockey last names. That would have been cute.
Well,
there's always time.
One of our last Billies that we had, he started off, his name was Yo-Yo Ma because he was so loud.
Oh, there you go.
And then I go, okay, we're naming him Kirill. And then my oldest,
perfect.
Then my oldest nephew goes, no, he needs to be named The Thrill.
There you go.
Then his name finally settled on Craig because my dad found him on Craigslist.
Oh.
So funny. Like, oh, Craig.
Yes.
All the most recent baby kids that we've had have been out of Craig or Krill or The Thrill.
Oh my goodness.
So
great.
I love this. It's just your life in Minnesota seems like picturesque. I just, picture you playing with goats and you're like, no, Devon, actually I worked a long day.
Yeah.
I'm not Heidi in the mountains, but
but going to the farm is like my little retreat away from everything, because living in the big city, it's like it has its perks, but then there's times where I just need to go back home where it all started just to kind of
Yeah.
refresh and get back to my normal self. And
Right. Have you been to many playoff games?
I have been to one already, and then I'll be going to my second one tomorrow. And so I'm pretty excited about it because I've never been, like I went to one playoff game. I can't remember how many years ago that was, but it was the year that Prince died and they changed the goal song to a Prince song.
Oh,
So crazy, I think it was what they used. And
Nice.
so it's kind of very surreal because the night before I was at an Eric Church concert.
oh, love Eric Church.
Those tickets for that playoff game just out of luck because I was sitting there on StubHub going, do, 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 do. I'm like, oh, these tickets are only $120 and I'm like 16 rows right behind the bench. Can't beat that. So I hit,
Wild must have good pricing.
Seriously.
well, so I hit purchase right away. And then right after, once they scored, I think it was in overtime, if I remember correctly. So I immediately purchased the ticket. And then I sat there and watched everybody else's tickets go right up in price. I'm like,
Mm. So,
Well,
all
I
right.
have to say really quick, just because there's no way that Kelly would ever know this, but I am also a 4-H girl. Um, I did that growing up, so that's probably why I get so darn excited about the goats, because I get it.
Okay, this makes a lot more
Yep.
sense.
girls connect. And yeah,
Yes.
Yes. Hockey brings people together in so many ways. That was one thing I loved about going on the Ladies of the NHL retreat. It was so many different types of women. Like, what by types of women, I mean from different geographies, cities, rural, like, all different interests, all different types of careers, different ages, like everything from, I think, what in Dallas, we had a young 20 something all the way up to, I won't say, but several decades later. And we all like found people we connected with, and it just was hockey that united everybody. And I thought that is really pretty cool because there's no other world where all these different people would have come together and had so much freaking fun.
well, it's like I look at too, being in the car break group where
Yes.
I met a player's aunt, where it's like I was just sitting there and I'm like, I just said, oh, nice to meet you. Welcome to the group and stuff. And she's like, you're welcome. And then I'm like, do I send her a friend request on Facebook? And then who friended each other first? But then like I pre-warned her. I said, just so you know, you're going to see a lot of pictures of calves and goats. And she's like, that's really okay with me because I was in 4-H and FFA too. I was
There
like,
you
Yeah.
go. Oh goodness, I love it. So
talked
you
about,
brought up the card break group, and we haven't gone down the rather expansive journey of talking about what that is in card collecting for our listeners. And I know some of them are card collectors, but we've barely scratched the surface. So we're going to have an episode coming up here with Stacy again where we dig in. But for the background on that, Callie is involved with the Puck Gals card breaks that Stacy runs, and it is a riot. Like we just chit
Yeah.
chat while we look at cards being opened, and everyone picks teams, and we trade, and we laugh a lot.
yes.
So
It's a
it
lot of
is a
fun.
great time. Come join us, even if you've never done a card break before. I swear, as somebody who is extremely nervous, it's so fun. Just click, log in, and we'll explain the rest. Right?
To meet people from across the league, where
Hmm.
that's how I met you guys was
Yeah.
through, the Puck Gal car breaks
Yes.
where it's like, hey, you're a Red Wings fan, and you find out, but then too, you all have your certain players that you collect. Like my PC, everybody laughs about is Noah Cates,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and
I got some
thank
stuff.
you PC where I ended up this summer. I have his signed jersey from
Nice.
the league.
Very cool.
I wore it to the Flyers and Wild game, and he kind of, I think we kind of laughed that he kind of toe picked maybe and almost fell when he, because my friend goes, I think he noticed you. I'm like, well, he probably did because we've traded. I've given him one of his cards, and he has one of my hockey cards that I had done when I was the Minnesota Wild representative for the Upper Deck contest last year.
Oh,
So
so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
me to sign it too. So I got to get you guys yours too. So
Yes. We would
Yay.
love that. We have M cubed, but I don't Stacy had one too, and I don't have Stacy's. Do you have Stacy's, Megan?
I do not. I do not.
We'll have to keep.
We're working on those
Yeah.
collections too.
Yes.
I think he has ones from her old year, but not the most recent one where she won, because I think they only gave her like only an X amount of cards, and it's like,
Yeah.
no, I need to get my cards out to people, but it's like life has just gotten so busy where it's like they're
Yeah.
desk waiting for me to sign them and stuff. So
But that's a really cool thing that Upper Deck does. So again, for our listeners, Upper Deck, the be all end all for hockey card collecting, does that fan contest where they essentially pick and recognize super fans and print them on a hockey card that will ultimately be part of the collection. So you can go to the store, buy a pack, open it up, and find Callie from Minnesota. And it's really cool to see fans recognized amongst hockey heroes. So congrats, that's like a huge deal.
So fun.
So, speaking of Debut League, that's what I was most excited to dig in because, candidly, I wasn't familiar with it until I met you. And we had Justin Hall from the Detroit Red Wings play last year, and I believe he was on the championship team, right?
yes, he was, and I even brought you guys up to him. So
Oh, that's amazing. So, will you tell us about that?
Yeah.
okay, so the Beauty League is where it's basically a summer league where it's kind of, I call it a beer league without the beer, even though there might be stuff going on. I'm not quite sure
Maybe.
because they play at the high school rink that Edina plays at called Braemar Arena.
Okay.
They invite a bunch of players all the way from ECHL, college, AHL, as well as on the professional league as well, which is amazing because that's how you get to see all these players more up close and personal, and basically just kind of playing with their friends, where it's just a pickup game of hockey. Nothing's taken too seriously. They do some silly, fake fights and stuff like that. And it's so much fun. And it's so much fun watching. My favorite part of it is watching the kids, get to see their favorite players up close and personal, and also getting autographs from them. And they even do like an overtime where it's like an overtime, they have to be on the blue line and you have to do kind of like what's like a shootout, and you have to get 3 in, but you're constantly racing and you got to get the puck back to the blue line for the next guy to shoot. So it's kind of turns into a lot of fun, and they just sit there and, sometimes they'll flop around on the ice. The other thing I really love about it is all sales for the tickets go back to charity.
Oh, wow.
And that's kind of the Noah Cates jersey I have that went straight back to charity, which I just love how they do that. And after every game, the players come out of, on the back end of the arena, and you see kids lined up, yelling, I want your autograph, I want your autograph. And, watching little girls being so shy to ask for an autograph because their brother's like, I know all these players.
Oh,
Kind of the fun thing last year was with Noah Cates was, his brother Jackson also plays, and Jackson plays for the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Oh, nice.
okay, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how it's like they kind of have gotten to kind of know who I am now because of the Beauty League. And, I told this girl, I'm like, those two are brothers. And she's like, but I only have one puck. And I loved how her mom said, well, they've had to learn to share their whole entire life. So I'm pretty sure they know how to sign on a puck. So I got them to both come over and sign her puck for her. And, and the mom was like, thank you so much. You made her day. And
That's
adorable. Oh my God.
it was last year, I think it was, where I don't know who it was that came out of, the locker room area outside. And they were going, Faber, Faber, because they thought it was Brock Faber. And it's like, this guy does not have glasses on. So no, I don't. And then the guy goes, I'm not Brock Faber. And the kids go, like,
Oh, no. At that point, he should have just been like, oh, sure, I'll sign.
How great though. Like you're inspiring the next generation of female
Yeah.
fans and getting them involved. I love that. That's so great.
last year they always used to have like a showcase game for the females, because before we had the Whitecaps. And now with Frost and everything with PWHL, they initiated a game at the end of every Wednesday. It's usually every Wednesday night. So this year it's going to be, this is where I have to look at my notes here, be July 9th through August 27th.
Okay.
Oh, neat.
Wednesday. And last year, what they did was they always put a women's game at the end. And that's where I finally was able to meet Taylor Heisey, who is actually from my home area.
Wow.
Oh, no way.
And my cousins have played with her brothers with travel basketball.
Okay.
So her dad lives in my hometown, and her dad is my dad's insurance guy,
Nice.
crop insurance. So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, she's like, oh, I know you. I'm like, no, I don't think you do, but you know my last name.
That's awesome. So this is a very tight-knit Beauty League community.
Yes.
What is the philanthropy or the nonprofit that they typically support? Does it change or is it always the same?
I think if I remember correctly, like they do a lot of stuff like with mental health, like children's mental health, stuff like that. It's amazing. And it's just so awesome to see, just everything and getting to meet the players. As you guys saw, the one video that I got Brady Shea to do, and that turned into a joke where I just yelled out 2 years ago, I go, it's Brady Sketchy, because as we know, Stacy's other half has wonderful nicknames for players.
Yes.
And I turned around and sure enough, there were his parents. And his in-laws too. And I think his wife was even there. And my friend that was with me at the time, she's like, seriously, Callie, can you just stop?
I'm sure they've gotten sketchy their entire lives. Like that Shay, my middle name is Shay. I'm like, it's Shea. His is what? Got K's and J's and all the consonants.
Well, it's so funny because his father-in-law goes to me, he's like, it's okay, we're used to it. Because even we asked our daughter, now, how do you say his name? So it's kind of funny where when I finally got to meet him last year, when I got him to do the video for our car break, how he just laughed. He's like, oh, I've heard it. I'm like, so you heard me yelling it? Or did your father say, hey, this girl's calling you Brady Sketchy? Or did you just, it's kind of like the same thing with, Tommy Novak. Got to sit next to his relatives last year. Had no clue who they were, just sitting there, and they're like, oh, who are you watching? And I'm like, go Tommy, for our friend Ricky. And it's like, and I know Tommy Novak because he played for the Gophers. And she's like, oh, how do you know Tommy? And she's like, I'm like, well, I've kind of followed him since he's been with the Gophers and he's now with the Friends. Oh yeah, we love him too. And it's like, and I'm like, oh, and she's like, we're relatives. And they your trading cards too. So she's got one of my trading cards.
That's amazing.
Very cool.
And she's like, we're going to show Tommy's grandparents. I'm like, please don't.
That is the cutest. So is it mostly players from Minnesota who play then, or do you get others who come for fun in the summer?
A lot of the guys that come are ones that either played for the University of Minnesota Duluth, the Bulldogs. Some people from North Dakota will come in, as well as Mankato State, who played college there. And then also sometimes they'll bring their friends in. So this year we were all kind of like, what the hell's going on here? Because all of a sudden Brendan Dillon showed up. And the whole
Very
thing,
cool.
what he's done to our players, especially Kirill. So it's like,
oh, yes.
Do we boo him? And then we found out that he's friends with Nate Schmidt. So Nate Schmidt apparently invited him. So it was kind of all those things where it's like, really? Come on now.
I know. It's kind of like when you're playing in a summer nonprofit charity league, like I guess you have to just put the NHL feuds behind you for a minute. I suppose. Okay, so Callie, are you going to reach out to Alex Lyon and invite him? I know he knows about the Beauty League because he gave Justin Hall a shout out at camp last year. Yeah, so he's a Minnesota boy.
Please, come on. You want to be part of the, John Scott Cup and win that cup with those boys, you got to come.
Yeah, he's got to come. Last year he was playing for Team USA for men's worlds in the Czech Republic, but he got injured and had to come back. So maybe this is his year. That would be so cool.
Right.
Either way, we need to come out. It sounds like a blast and certainly right
Yeah,
up our alley. We love small venue hockey where you can just
for
like
sure.
be up close, be part of the action.
Yep.
And
And then also this year, we're kind of looking at August 6th. We're looking at hopefully doing kind of a ladies' night at the Beauty League. So there's more to come. So,
very
you know,
cool.
I get everything kind of finalized and everything for that first week of August. Hopefully, I'll be able to give more details. So,
Yay, love that.
Tell
But
Stacy from Ladies of the NHL about that too, because it could be a great opportunity to get some of those women together in person.
well, I think Stacy's already planning on coming.
Oh, perfect. There you go. See, our hockey community just keeps shrinking.
And we also have some ladies that have already reached out to me through our car break group to get details and to what days, that we're planning on doing something. And I've given them the ones that have shown interest. I've given them the dates that we're looking at, and I'm going to be talking to a restaurant, and hopefully we'll be able to do a get together, at a local bar that's kind of in between basically the airport and where the Beauty League is played in Edina. And it's actually a bar that's owned by Lou Nanny, which is called.
very cool.
So if any of you guys want to check out Tavern 23 when you're in Minnesota, that's definitely a really good.
23? Okay, we will do it. But you'll definitely know because we won't come to Minnesota and not tell you we're coming.
Oh yeah.
So do you volunteer then with the Beauty League, or how did you get this role where you're organizing these things?
I don't really organize them, but I kind of become like everybody kind of got to know me from coming in. And the guy that works the door, his son just recently played for the Golfers. And it was so funny because everybody that has come up to me there is like, you've been here basically since the beginning, haven't you? And I'm like, no, this is like my third year. Why? And they're like, just seems like we've known you forever. And that's the one thing people say about me is just, we feel like we've known you forever.
Yeah.
And
I get that vibe from you too.
so it's like, so I got to know the guy, at the front door where he'd always give me crap about work, and got to get to know the Fab Five hockey guys who are guys that follow, a lot of high school hockey. And they even thought, oh my God, we've known you. Haven't you been here? I'm like, no, this is, and that was even first year. And it was just like, how am I making these connections? But then I go back to my roots as to where it all started.
Mm-hmm.
Being in those organizations, reaching out, finding that common connection with people and paying attention to people around you. Because you can make an easy connection with somebody like we did, with, best friend from college, being from Michigan. And her kind of first kind of opening the door for me, with, the realm of hockey, even though it was Detroit Red Wings, but it was because I think her dad even had season tickets at one point, or, they would,
that's awesome.
Because he worked for, the auto industry in Detroit.
Okay. Yes, as most of us do in some capacity.
Yeah. So it's kind of one of those things where I think that kind of has helped, paying attention to people you're around, even like the connections that I've made with certain players is paying attention to, okay, where are you from?
Yeah.
What is your background? Is there something we can find like a common ground with to make that connection and make it memorable for, both of us? And making them feel like they're an actual human being, not, oh my God, it's the superstar. Oh my gosh, it's,
Yes.
Kirill, or it's, Ryan Hartman, or it's, Mason Shaw. It's the whole thing of finding that connection with those players to make them feel more comfortable being like, okay, this is somebody I can trust communicating with, because that's how I feel like at the Beauty League where, Tommy Novak, I'm like, Ricky, who's in our car break group, she sent me a Tommy Novak shirt. And I just said, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Hey, I only had a Gopher shirt on today. He's like, that's fine. Gophers are all right with me. And you know that because I'm also a Gopher, So it's kind of really neat things, where you find those connections with those players and they're going to remember you when they see you the next time. And that's what I think is really awesome about it. And, even at the beauty league where I had so many players go, do we have college classes together? I'm like, I'm older than you guys. I'm not interested.
The players are getting so young. It could be their mom.
College kids go, did we have class together this year? I'm like, dude, I've been out of college for over 20 years. So no, we did not have class
But
together.
thanks. You are such an authentic person, Callie, because you truly practice what you preach. We connected because just in our little card break chat, Megan and I mentioned a couple of things. Like one was, I told the story about getting the picture of you and Justin Hall briefly on the red carpet. And then I of course got very excited when somebody pulled an Alex Lyon card, and Callie remembers these. You truly remember things about people because you care. And so later, much later, you reached out and said like, oh, I found, Lionize, you call him, or, oh, did you know Justin Hall's coming this summer for the Beauty League? And I'm like, you are just a good person because you really do listen, because you want to connect with people.
That is, what's I find really special about myself. And like I said, I just still push it back to, being in 4-H and FFA and having to make those connections with people and meeting people from across the country, going to conferences, and now working for the company that I do, which is a global company, where it's like, still, you got to make those connections with people, to help your job go a lot smoother. And because, one of our top managers, he was the one that first time I met him was for that Wild game. And he's a huge Wild fan. And he's the one that talked me off of buying an Eric Hall jersey, because he goes, it's going to get traded. He's going to go on that expansion. You don't want somebody that's going to go to Vegas. And like, but he played for it. So it's like, so that jersey got scrapped. So then I got a Jason Zucker jersey instead because of everything he does for childhood cancer. So,
oh, great choice. That's amazing.
So that's a lot of reasons behind like my jersey is if, like the Zucker one was because of everything he did with the Tucker Holstrom, foundation, after, when Tucker was, suffering from cancer. And then after he passed away, he always was, that voice for the Give 16 campaign. So it's like, so I collected a lot of stuff with Zucker, the jersey, the Give 16 hat that they did through Love Your Melon.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things where it's like all my jerseys have a special meaning. Like my Hartman jersey sat empty because I kept on saying, I don't know if I can get a player. I don't know if I want to go through this again of getting a player on my back that's going to get traded. But I decided, I'm like, what, Hartman, he's kind of got, kind of that farm boy, type background. And then he also has that kind of edge that we all liked with what he did with Evander Kane.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Yep.
So you can just be like us now. We, also appreciate, I don't want to say an obscure player. I never can come up with like a nice way to say this, but the best thing is we don't collect the captains of the team by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination. So we just collect players that we really enjoy watching, that we're rooting for across all of their teams, their entire hockey journey, which is why Megan's able to do things like display a Vegas and Wild jersey today. So you can join us there.
Last night where it's like I was sleeping, woke up to my phone, I'm like, hey, we're ahead 3-2, Herman scored, awesome. And then all of a sudden my phone alerts, 2-2 overtime. What the hell happened? And by the time I finally found out what happened, all of a sudden then my phone alerted me that Vegas scored in overtime. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah. Well, as of this recording, the series is tied, right? 2-2?
Nope, it is now 3-2. So
3-2.
We got to win tomorrow at home.
Okay.
The home has been our struggle all season, but I feel like they might be able to kind of rally up and stuff. And it sounds like Gus is going to be back in net tomorrow. Cross our fingers. As much as Fleury, it's just one of those things where he's more there, in my opinion, for the mentorship, which is amazing to have.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
No better mentor.
Yeah, it definitely sounded like Gus was just having some sort of like little sickness that shouldn't be a long-term thing. That's what it sounded like to me. So that's good news for you guys.
Yeah.
I apologize. I was keeping up with the series and I missed last night's game, hence my lack of memory on the standings now because New Jersey and Carolina would not end. It just kept on going. So I watched New Jersey, Carolina like the whole night. I was committed, but yeah, that was a fun one too. So good luck
But
to your Wild
speaking,
tomorrow.
yeah, speaking of Marc-André Fleury, one of the things I was dying to ask you about was what was his retirement tour like? Was there anything special, or I'm just so curious about it.
Well, I want to bring up like the first kind of like big time memory for a lot of us fans was what happened on February 9th of last year.
Let's go.
They did his celebration for his 1,000 games and then
Oh yeah.
being one step closer to Martin Brodeur.
Yeah.
And they did this whole thing for him where we actually were able to sit down and watch everything about him and every single player across the league, retired or active players that, have so much admiration for him.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it turned into where it's like you were seeing Sidney Crosby and we were playing Pittsburgh at the time. Like, what are the chances that the celebration was going to be on 2-9, which 29 is his number,
Mm-hmm.
playing Pittsburgh, where it all started for him? And
Wow.
With his bestie, Sidney Crosby.
yes,
So perfect.
and so it's like, so it was an emotional game for a lot of people. And we were able to see what kind of a family man he really is.
Mm.
When they interviewed his wife and his kids and them giving money back to the Native American community in St. Paul.
That's fantastic.
So amazing, because his wife is Native and the Native community made a special helmet for him too, as well, to commemorate everything. And they auctioned that off. And I can't remember the dollar amount off the top of my head.
Sure, it was
They
wild.
And I think it's still sitting in like in the history museum in St. Paul.
Wow.
Amazing. And then the other wonderful memory of his farewell tour was our last home game against the Anaheim Ducks, where I never saw so many people stand up, whether you're a Wild fan or even an Anaheim Ducks fan. You were standing when Gus decided to pull the ultimate move of telling the coaches, put Fleury in. This may be his last home game. He needs to hit that record for overtime wins. And
you're going to make me cry twice in this episode.
And there was no, rhyme or reason, but it just shows how much he has, not just with fan bases, but even players across the league, no matter what their ages are. Gus could have easily been like, nope, I'm going to take us into overtime. No, he went and told, the coaching staff, no, it's time to put Fleury in. And you could just tell in the arena how everybody just stood up as soon as we're like, oh my God, Fleury's in net. Oh my God, Fleury's warming up. Oh my God, we got to do a penalty kill. Are we going to be able to pull it off? Did the penalty kill in overtime. And then we were finally able to score. And just the crowd just cheering and yelling, Fleury, Fleury, Fleury.
Oh my God.
You're sitting there trying not to cry. And I had my friend who hadn't been to a game at all this season. I was able to get 2 tickets from another friend of mine who's in our car break group, who was so gracious to do this. And I took my friend and she's like, thank you so much. I needed this with everything that I've gone through this year.
It was perfect the whole night.
And that's my whole thing is like, if somebody's going to give me that opportunity to go to a game or give me an extra ticket, I want to make sure it's going to somebody who deserves it and somebody who's going through a lot to lift their spirits a little bit. And that's about, our organization, as well as Ladies of the Wild and Ladies of the NHL and our Puck Gal car breaks, is how we kind of connect with all of each other. The whole thing too was like when I was taking pictures, because I was, further up. The one picture that I got on the Jumbotron was him and Jackson Lacombe. And Jackson Lacombe is a former golfer, and he also plays at Deputy League. So
wow.
Things where it's like, I'm just sitting there going, I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I got Fleury and Jackson Lacombe, it's like, but it's one of those things where you just
Yep.
never, you don't think about it until you look through your phone after a game to be like, what did I get pictures of? Because like, especially that game where it's like when I was going down to the lower, right up on the glass because my friend was getting her jersey off her back of Freddie Gaudreau. And
So cool.
turn around to the back of me, and here's a girl in a powder blue Pittsburgh Penguins jersey, and either her husband or boyfriend, and she's just bawling. And I said, if you're not crying, I'm crying. Everybody else in this arena is crying. And she's like, I know. She's like, I even saw some Anaheim Ducks fans crying.
Oh, I love it so much. Oh.
Because they lost, or if it was because of Fleury. I'm like, we're just going to chalk it off. It was Fleury.
Yeah, I would say so at this point. That's so cute. Okay, on a fun note, same topic. Favorite Flurry prank or thoughts in general on the greatest prankster of all time in the NHL, Marc-André.
I will say my favorite prank is what he did to Brandon Duhaime.
Which one was that? The tires?
Yeah, the tires. Because Brandon got traded after he toilet papered Fleury's vehicle. So then all of a sudden he gets traded out to Colorado, and Fleury, along with, I'm pretty sure Mason Shaw probably helped him out, with removing the tires and everything and putting up on blocks and put a nice little flower bed, on top of his Jeep. And it was like, yep. And then he basically, all Duhaime could say was like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. It was just like, so who
That
knows
was
how
great.
long his Jeep sat out there.
With an
good.
entire like garden, right? Like he had
Yeah.
planted. It's like, oh my God. Yeah, I just remember him saying, all right, I'm gonna need a ride home. Like you gotta drive me home.
Yeah. So I guess that's like my favorite one, even though
Oh
it's more,
my God.
but it's just like for him to go from, being teammates with a guy where it turned into like it all started with, the whole thing with, Duhaime wearing the apple bottom jeans with boots with the fur, it's like, seriously, come on. It's like,
That's the best. And he like Flurry's not, a huge guy, but he's not small. And I have seen so many video snippets of him hiding in hockey bags for like God knows how long to jump out at teammates. And I'm just like, what? How long was he in there and how did he fit?
right, exactly.
For
Oh,
me, I don't even care what he does. He can do any prank he wants as long as I get to see the footage of him giggling all the way through setting it up. Like that's what I'm living for. Like that little it's my favorite thing. He's so funny.
well, hopefully next year, since he'll have more time on his hands, he can just become a full-time prankster.
Wouldn't that be the best?
Just come back to different arenas and
Yes.
He's staying in
Mess with
Minnesota. We'll
everyone.
see, what his game plan really is after he
yeah.
retired. So, because that was kind of a huge shock, I think, to a lot of us, was like we thought he was moving to Vegas, but then kind of sounds like he's staying put here because of his kids, which
Nice.
is great to see too, and that just shows you right there what kind of, players are, where they put their kids first above anything else.
Yep. Well, to bring it full circle, why would he ever leave? Y'all are so nice. You're so nice, and it's the hockey state capital. Yeah, he's got it pretty good there. So we have talked your ear off, Callie, but you do so much for not just ladies of the Wild and ladies of the NHL, but through your philanthropy work, your involvement with the Beauty League.
Okay,
So
so
I'm
this past fall, actually it was more in the spring where I got, the connections to meet with a player's significant other, and she was able to help me get a print signed that I wanted, which was a print of from Kickley, who he does a lot of prints and stuff like that and paintings during Wild games, Vikings games, even, Twins games. I haven't seen him do much, this year, but he did one of Ryan Hartman flipping the bird. And I always wanted Ryan to sign it. And because the connections that I made with Ryan's wife, it was like, I have this print, I really want it signed, but And it was so funny because she thought that I was a Jordan Greenway fan. And it was one of the other wives that basically said, she's wearing a Hartman jersey. She's like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. But it's like, but it was making the connection of where she was from originally, where it kind of started, where it's like just acting like a normal person. You know, if she can't help me with it, so be it. You know, I'll find another time to get it signed. She's like, nope, I can help you get that taken care of. So she was able to help me with that. And then all of a sudden they announced that Ryan was doing a signing at a business called Fan HQ. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to it because I want to actually meet him in person because I've never met him in person before. And he knew about the print and he told me, he's like, yep, that's signed. And then, but I had previously a hat that was given to me by 9 Mile Brewery, which is here in Bloomington. And that's the beer that I'm drinking.
Nice.
It's local, and their owner is a huge Wild fan. And they also did a beer for the Whitecaps, you know, before they became the Frost. And so they always had kind of like a small door, you know, open with the hockey community, but not as much as they wanted to, especially after the Whitecaps were no longer. So lady that I, you know, got to know there, who it was just mainly because, you know, talking about my sister-in-law who has breast cancer and finding out that she has breast cancer. And I said, you know, I'm going to the signing. I know that, you know, the owner is a big, huge Wild fan. And she's like, and I go, I'm going to the signing. She's like, who's the signing for? I said, Ryan Hartman. She's like, I'll be right back. She came back with a hat, 2 hats. And then she goes, do you think, she's like, I'll give you money. She goes, can you please get this signed? And we're going to give it to the owner.
Oh.
And so I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And no problem, you know, because I just want to get my picture taken with them. That's, you know, and just
yeah.
And it turned into me sitting there thinking of how can I give back to the community? Because that is something that I've done for years. You know, when I was in 4-H and FFA, it's always giving back and service to community. And it turned into the whole aspect of first it's sort of like, do I want to do something with breast cancer? But then I'm sitting there going like, so many of these players have adopted dogs from the Bond Between, which used to be secondhand hounds. And I still remember the day that I was looking through my Instagram because I was following secondhand hounds. And I saw a picture where they must have had their gala at the University of Minnesota, I think, if I remember correctly. And there was a picture there with Jared Spurgeon and his wife, and then Alan Skaligoski and his wife. So it was like one of those things where, like, and the brewery has been so pro dogs. The owner, he does a lot of fostering. So it's like, so this was all running through my head while I was waiting in line to, you know, figure out what am I going to have Ryan sign. Because I had a card in my pocket, I'm like, I can have Ryan sign this card. But then they had the picture of him flipping, you know what?
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? Here's an opportunity that I think we could raise some money for, you know, the Bond Between, because I know Hartmans have adopted dogs in the past. And
perfect.
You know, so it's kind of one of those things where it's kind of like, and even his wife and I talked about, you know, dogs and, you know, the farm life. And it was just like, she's like, oh, I love dogs. And we're looking at possibly getting another puppy. And we're thinking about maybe getting one from there. Don't know if they ever did or not. But it was like one of those things where those dogs have meant so much to, you know, our players that they've gotten there. So I was like, you know what, I think it's going to be the Bond Between. You know, I said, and just hope for something bigger the next time, where hopefully I can get a player to come in for a Ladies of the Wild event and a larger fundraiser. But it was just one of the things where I'm like, got him to sign this stuff. And I explained to him what 9 Mile Brewery was. And then I explained to him, well, this is going to go up as, you know, a fundraiser. And like, and I was just kind of like this. Dazed and confused probably, but it was where, you know, Amy was with me and she's like, he was completely locked in. And they had like a video of when I was up there, and you could just see that both him and the owner of Fan HQ were completely locked in with what I was selling them. And I'm like, I can't even remember what I said. Just was like, and now I remember him saying, well, you know how to get in touch with us. I'm like, and he's like, just let me know if there's anything you need.
Amazing.
So we did that fundraiser. We raised over $2,000 with the help with Ladies of the Wild,
Congrats.
ladies of the NHL, and then also with the Puck Yell car breaks with, Stacy and other friends in the break that were willing to share, what I was doing to help get more fundraising in, as well as me reaching out to coworkers that who are also Wild fans. So hopefully one day I can get them into Ladies of the Wild,
Yes.
begging them to do it, but they're just like, I don't go on Facebook that often. But
Yeah.
so I'm hoping
It's
that
worth it. I call
It's worth
Facebook
it.
my
Do it.
my hockey app now because I only go directly to our hockey groups.
so
Callie, I can't believe all that came from you standing in line with a picture of Ryan giving the bird.
So good.
Such a good
Amazing.
story. We
Yes.
followed your fundraiser and never knew the origin story. That is
Yeah,
pretty
so
cool.
I
good.
kind of really wish that Ryan would do a beer with them because I think a good name for beer would be Birdman Brew.
Yes.
I
So
love it.
I brought it up to the owner. He's like, I like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where it's like, so I'm hoping that everything that I'm working on that I'll be able to
Yeah.
hopefully give more information on will come into play. But for sure, we will be definitely doing a ladies' night at the
Okay.
Beauty League on August 6th. So, and we're hoping that we can get some more ladies coming in from out of state because it's a lot of fun, and even bring your kids, you bring your significant others, the more people that they can get to fill that place, it's more giving back to the community, which I love. So
Okay. Yes,
So
clearly you're doing
good.
a great
Wow.
job of it. Keep us
Yeah.
posted and we
Yeah,
will
for sure.
plug it on our small but mighty hockey style community as well. Power
yeah,
in numbers.
Yes.
exactly.
Well, thank you so much. Like, this has been everything I ever could have hoped for. Like, I feel like you covered all the things I wanted to know. So good. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much for having me, you guys.
You too, Kelly. We'll see you soon. Thanks for your
Yeah.
time.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Whew. That was fun.
Oh my gosh. I'm so excited about everything I just learned about the Minnesota Wild. I'm ready to book my trip.
Yes, I would absolutely go with you to Ladies' Night for the Beauty League. It
I think
sounds
we need to work
right up
that
our
out.
alley.
Yes,
Kelly reminded
100%.
me a lot when she was talking about just being there 3 years and already making these connections and friendships. It kind of gave me our training camp vibes. You
Yeah.
just like get to know everybody and it
Yeah.
becomes like, getting to see the players in this small arena and so close to the ice and it just makes you feel really like part of something and it's really special. So I really related to that fun.
Definitely, for sure. And I couldn't help but think when she was talking about the beauty league about we also have a local league that some professional players come and play in the summer, and it was actually the opportunity that I had to kind of meet, and he wasn't at the time, but he is now because of this interaction. One of my PCs, Josh Norris, he was playing in the league, and it was just kind of like she described, like the kids with the autographs, and he was so kind and so sweet and was kind of helping with like crowd control and like helping him get onto the ice for the game that he was about to play. And it was so cute because he was signing for all these kids and just head down focused, and I was just kind of like, Josh, and he's like, I have to go, don't I? And he's like, yes. You've got, they called my name. Yes, you've got to go. Okay. And he's still signing. He's still signing.
Oh,
Josh, you
what
got
a
to go. And
good
he's like,
guy.
okay, I'm going to go. And he was
Did he
just
have to
so,
go play?
yes, he had to go play. They're like announcing his name, and he was still so into signing for the kids and focused on it. It was just the sweetest thing. And I just thought, like, what a great guy, like how kind,
Yeah,
and just really wanted to involve the kids. And it doesn't get any better in a summer league. So that's one of my favorite Josh Norris stories. He's a really good guy.
that's awesome. But also so relevant to why the summer leagues are special.
Yeah,
We don't ever get those experiences at an NHL game. Not that they're not amazing, but being able to stop and talk to the players almost makes it feel like an AHL game too.
for
So
sure.
we'll have to check that out
Up
and
close
maybe
and
make it to
personal.
Minnesota.
I would love it. I'm there for it 100%.
And maybe see some
But
goats.
maybe I would love to. But I have to know, do you have a style tip for us today?
I have a style tip. I thought
Yay.
about it as we were talking to Callie about how everyone from Minnesota is so friendly. This is a tried and true, centuries old style tip. If you need an accessory, make a friendship bracelet. We know Taylor Swift obviously made these extremely popular again through the Eras tour, but they've also become, for those of you watching on YouTube, you can see some of my beaded bracelets. Uh, a big part of ladies of the NHL, and I don't mean the group, I mean actual like women going to hockey games. We see a ton of people wearing and trading bracelets. I actually last season, one of my favorite memories after wearing my Lion jersey a bunch of times and making signs for our goaltenders in general, I had um I had a gal chase me down in a nice way. She was just walking briskly and she's like, "Wait, Lion fan." And I'm like, "Is that me?" She said, "I
That's
know
you.
you're a Lion girly too, and I wanted to give you one of these bracelets." And she had made a beaded bracelet with the letters that said dog bus biz. And for those who don't know the story, it's hilarious. They asked all the Red Wings, if you didn't play hockey, what would you do, like other than sports? And everyone, had basic answers like, I'd be a lawyer, I would be you know, an engineer or a real estate agent. And Lion immediately, without batting an eye, goes, I would run a dog bus business, like you see on Instagram, where you drive a bus around and people put their dogs on it and then you drive them to the park and you play and then you take them home. And I thought that was like such a cute and creative little tongue-in-cheek, if you know type bracelet.
So
So
good.
if you need a fun game accessory, you don't want to invest in a jersey, make some bracelets. They're really easy to do. Megan, tell them about some of the special ones you've made. Like you made me this one with all
Oh,
the sock patterns.
yeah, I tend to get a little crazy. I will match like the sock pattern to the bracelet. I don't know. I don't even know if it makes sense to anyone else, but it makes sense in my head. And just do fun things like, a classic Let's Go Red Wings if you want to put your player's number on it. So for me, like Evgeny playing for different teams, it's got all the different sock patterns for all the NHL teams he played for and even the ones in Russia. So just
Mhm.
fun thing. Just get creative and have a good time. And, if you can tie it into the playoffs, even better. And if you make an extra one, maybe give it to a fan you come across who you think's fun. Like, what a great way to connect.
Yes, definitely. Oh, that was another time we were down for warm-ups during Pride Night for the Red Wings, and I was talking to a couple people who had bracelets, and we were all like, "Oh, cool! It's the Pride Night activations are really well done this year," and they gave me pride bracelets with red,
I
white, and
love it.
rainbows, and I thought those
So
were
good.
incredible. So yeah, keep an eye out if you see people wearing them at your arena. You can join in on the fun and get an armful of colorful beads like we
For
have
sure.
every day. We
Yeah.
even wear
And
them when we get
supplies.
dressed up with cocktail dresses, which is
100%. And
maybe not
supplies
our
are
style
easier.
tip.
Yeah. Well, supplies are easy to find. Your local craft store, even Amazon, you can get all different colored beads. Very easy, very inexpensive, fun thing to do. And maybe you'll make a friend.
Yes. One actual crafting tip Megan taught me that is, I swear by now, is when you make the knot at the end of the elastic, put a little dab of craft glue. There's a few brands out there you can search and find the one you like, but a little dab. And then I've never had one of the bracelets you made me break. So they are
For sure.
stronger than
For
the ones
sure.
I was making.
And while we can't demonstrate right now, then the invisible knot is a fisherman's knot. And you can just Google that. Good to go.
Yes. So, pretty basic, tried and true, but very fun hockey style tip for the day. We hope you enjoyed chatting with Callie about all things Minnesota hockey in the Wild and the Beauty League. I know I sure did.
Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you next time.
Bye.